Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of MCCI, I extend a warm welcome to all of you to this special e-session on Indian and world stock market, current and post-COVID scenarios. I extend a special welcome to Shri Ashish Kumar Chauhan, the Managing Director and CEO of BSE Limited. Friends, since 2020, we all have been going through uncertain times. The entire world is reeling under destabilizing impact of the global pandemic. No business is immune to the challenges caused by this pandemic, and there are understandable concerns about the extent of the damage caused to this worldwide economy. During the first quarter of 2021, the business community was confident that the outbreak would ease and cases were leveling off. As the second wave gained momentum, initial optimism gave way to kindness. The stock market worldwide saw massive declines. The Stoxx Europe 600 fell to more than 20% below its peak. Asia Pacific stock markets closed with the Nikkei 225 falling by more than 20% below its 52-week high. Global benchmark indices like Dow Jones or Nasdaq witnessed major losses. Overall stock markets declined over 30% by first phase of the pandemic. Volatilities of equities and oil prices spiked to crisis levels as the world faced a lockdown. And credit spreads on non-investment grade debt widened sharply as investors rushed to reduce their risks. The stock market in India started rallying last year in around May, when economic conditions were harshest due to the nationwide lockdown. The unusual rally puzzled us all, as all indicators of economic activities were redlined given the nationwide lockdown. The benchmark BSE Sensex climbed for a period during which the nation's tally of daily infections as well as related deaths hit new highs. The BSE benchmark hit its one-year low of 27,500 on April 3rd last year. But towards the latter part of fiscal, indices marched higher and the frontline BSE 30 share index zoomed to its all-time high of 52,516 on February 16, 2021. At a time when economic activity in India has been derailed by the ongoing COVID-19 crisis, the country's equity markets seem to be riding the second wave confidently. During the global crisis period, all the central banks of the world combined injected approximately $11 trillion as stimuli to combat the pandemic. The flush of liquidity has its impact on bourses across the world. At the same time, many blue chip companies have seen their value rise on the stock market due to better than expected results. The strong earnings season has helped investors overlook this COVID-19 crisis, which is likely to impact the economic recovery in the near term. In their result commentary, companies seem confident that business profitability will grow in the coming quarters. In view of the strong earnings season and commentary, investors are hoping that most of the stocks will continue to perform well in the future as well. The rise of primary commodity prices seems to be another positive factor driving investor sentiments in the markets. Now, to understand the reality of the stock market and demystify what's happening currently, we are extremely grateful to have with us Shri Ashish Kumar Chauhan, the Managing Director and CEO of BSE Limited. Shri Chauhan, besides being a noted business executive and administrator, is also a distinguished visiting professor at Ryerson University, Toronto, Canada. Prior to engaging with the Bombay Stock Exchange, Shri Chauhan was a member of the core team of National Stock Exchange. He has also served as a Chief Information Officer of Reliance Infocom earlier. Shri Chauhan is a mechanical engineer from IIT Bombay, and he's also an alumnus of IIM Kolkata. I now invite Shri Chauhan to deliver his address.
Thank you, Shri Akash Shah, Shri Subodh Kumar Agarwal, Sushri Munmun Banerjee, Shri Shushanjit. It's a pleasure and honor to be in front of you today. As rightly said, the COVID has put a tremendous stress on the world economy and on each of us, all the businesses everywhere. We all have suffered in some or other way. Not that we were not suffering before, but this suffering has been of a different level and different type. And it's the collective suffering across the world which has been seen. And if you look back in January 2020, we had 0 cases. In fact, and at the same time, market will continue to go down. Even February, I think there were hardly any cases, and markets continue to go down. Why? Because at that time there were rumors, at least in our minds, that China has got a very difficult disease which is spreading, and it has not spread yet, and it will not touch us. It was true with America, it was true with Europe, it was true with India also. But you might recall that first things that started coming out in terms of news was that there was a city called Wuhan in China that was closed down, and then the entire state, which they call province in China, is the Hubei province, that was closed down. Not entire China was closed down. And slowly, news started coming that Iran and Italy are basically facing a huge number of cases. Now, you might find it very amusing why Iran and why Italy are having more cases in the early stages of the Chinese disease. And it is interesting that due to that embargo on Iran, which America and others had put in, China did not actually adhere to that. And that's why they have a huge business interest in China, in Iran. And there were direct flights between Wuhan and Iranian cities. And that's where those Chinese which fled from Wuhan, assuming that they will be put to death or whatever, they went to Iran and infected those people. And that's how Iran had initially very large number of cases. And of course, it was a difficult disease, not easy to identify, not easy to cure. That's why a lot of people in Iran also died. In fact, cabinet ministers also got infected and so on and so forth. The second part, in Italy, many of the mid-size and even large-size fashion houses of Italy in Milan are actually taken over by Chinese. So they have Italian name only, but managed by Chinese. And that's why there are too many Chinese people in Milan. And that's how there used to be a direct flight between Wuhan and Milan also. That's how it got infected. Why I'm telling you this story is that nobody talks about this. But effectively, same time, almost January, February, March, we had a group of experts of Indian origin coming from America on all our TVs. You might recall some of them. One of the professors predicted that India will have 30 crore infections because of his model was so great that India would have 30 crore infections and 10 crore dead by July 2020. And that's how the market fell from 41,200 of Sensex to 25,800. Almost 40% down. Entire world went down in terms of their markets because there was a perception that the entire economic activity will go down drastically for years to come. If you have 30 crore infections and 10 crore dead, which is almost, say, 5 to 6% of India's population, it is going to be very difficult for India to come out for next 20, 30 years of that shock. And that is how, and the world also, many such predictions were going on. But as the disease actually started spreading, I think Sri Akasha also mentioned about when the highs were happening, market was going up. Why? Because the numbers were too small compared to the prediction. Even now, after 1.5 years, we are close to 3 crore infections, not 30 crore infections. And we are close to few lakh deaths, not 10 crore deaths, right? So it's a degree of difference. That's how the market started realizing that this disease is deadly. It spreads without our knowledge, very difficult to predict. And at the same time, the number of deaths are not as high as it is made out to be. And at the same time, the Indian government suddenly closed down on March 23rd, 2020, the entire nation for 70 days. it was in retrospect, a brilliant decision, because otherwise, if we had also got similar numbers, because people meet each other, that's how the disease spread. And that's where India closing down entire country ensured that we did not have the infection spreading like a community spread initially. And that also helped us, although Indian markets continued to operate, but in a lockdown basis. That is, you were to do everything from home, including the stock exchange were running from home only. People were not going to office, brokers were running from, and it allowed the Indian population who had invested in stock markets to get the liquidity that is desired. Because many people ask me today also that why did you keep the market on? In those days, people were criticizing me because on March 23rd, as soon as Prime Minister kind of concluded his speech, within 1 minute I wrote on the Twitter that the BSE will function normally. And I got so many criticisms on Twitter and otherwise also, saying why you guys want to make money and all. It is not about making money. I mean, stock markets hardly make money, at least BSE. But what we do is we give you liquidity services. In the lockdown, when you require the money most, if I am not able to give you liquidity, it's like when you need the money most, the bank is closed. Why will you keep your money in bank, right? Similarly, your stocks, your mutual funds, all those units would have become illiquid, and there would have been panic because the government allowed the markets to be kept open. It allowed people to come out even at 20% discount, 30% discount. They came out in an organized manner, and next day they were getting their money. In fact, we worked through the night. On Sunday night, from March 23rd, we worked through the night to ensure that next day, people who had sold on Friday, they got their money and their stocks who had bought. And slowly people realized that India is very, very stable. That's how the market started going up. In the meantime, the world markets, or world economy on world nations also, they realized that this is a deadly threat to the entire economy. In addition to the health of the people, it is also going to affect the businesses, and lockdowns are going to be norms. So they started putting in a lot of money to ensure that there is no panic. In the first few months, almost 3 months, from say March to June, almost $10 trillion were added into the world economy by way of fiscal or monetary kind of stimulus. The same amount, in fact, half of that amount was put in during the world financial crisis. So literally, the COVID crisis in the first 3 months, what was used by America and Europe and China and Japan in entire financial crisis, double the amount was put in. Now that money basically went to search for the assets. And that's how the asset prices started going up, which includes the stock market, but even real estate. Today also, if you look at, if COVID is so deadly across the world, why American housing price are so high? They are at the highest price, even higher than the 2007 price peak. Today, the world market is seeing housing boom. Housing prices boom, not housing boom. And that is because the assets are being chased by money. And that's what we need to understand, that too much of money has been pumped in by world markets, and some of them has also come into India through FIIs, through other means, and so on and so forth. And why the consumer inflation has not gone up? Why asset prices have gone up, but why consumer prices have not gone up? Because India started giving free food from April 1, 2020 till December 2020. Government gave free food. Again, today from June 1 onwards, they've started giving free food. So they ensured that there are no food prices or food scarcity. The Indian government, the central government, and also state governments, municipalities also helped by distributing that food that was sent by the central government. And that's why India did not see anarchy. India did not see riots. India didn't see many things. And that's what actually world was watching. India is supposed to be a very poor country, $2,000 per capita per capita income in a year. America, you know how much income they have? $66,000 per year. They have 33 times more income than us per person. And still, even after 1.5 years, they have more death rate, more per million number of infections, almost 8 times more than India. Almost 8 to 10 times more, or probably 16 times more death rate than India. Today, America is 19th or 20th in the world ranking in terms of number of infection and number of deaths. India is 109 out of 224 on worldometer.info. If you want to check out every day, you can check that out. Worldometer.info gives all the countries' rankings on number of infections, number of deaths, although India being second largest country and China stopped counting after 80,000. So China's numbers stopped going up only, although they closed the entire nation, they did all sorts of things, but nobody asked them what are your number. But India has so many people saying that no, our numbers are wrong because we are saying small. All over the world, same thing happens. It is not that we are alone, but we inherently distrust our government, which is a good thing. But this time, they have done a wonderful job. All municipalities, Gram Panchayat, state government, central government, they have done a good job of holding the society together by giving free food, by not splurging money on rich people. Instead, they splurge the money on poor people. And that has ensured that there are no riots. America even had a Black Lives Matter. You might recall, they had riots. India did not have those riots because the government ensured that free food reaches to the poorest of poor. Of course, our NGOs, our other people also managed well that things which were not reaching ended up reaching out. And that's where basically India as a society is much more robust. What it proves, given our experience of sending medicines during the first phase to the entire world, all HCQ and other things were sent to the rest of the world. Even medical doctors were sent. PPE we were not producing. Now we are exporting and many other things. Later on, we started producing vaccines and we sent 10 crore vaccines outside. And later on, after COVID wave 2, we had to stop doing that. But we created 2 vaccines in a short time, which no other country has been able to create. And we started giving our population, which is very large, very poor. Many people thought that India will not be able to manage. And somehow we as a country have stood together, have managed together. I think it's a credit to all of us. And we must learn to give credit where it is due to all our governments. I mean, many of us have complaints all the time about governments and all, but this time they have saved us and we should be thankful to them. Having said that, the rest of the world also was watching India carefully that these guys are poor. They are going to suddenly have 30 crore or even 50 crore infections. Not 10 crore, but 20 crore people will die. Nothing of that sort happened. And they started respecting India. That India is able to produce medicines, India is able to produce, and it's supposed to be so poor. People are supposed to be hungry. They are slumdog millionaires. You recall that movie. Most people in America and Europe have ideas about India only from Slumdog Millionaire or from the writings of our friends who write about the pyres burning. They don't have idea about the rest of the India. And many of us want to project only that image in the world, which is okay. For me, that is called post-truth world or post-Slumdog Millionaire world. That India is made up of slums, which is true to some extent, but which is also not true. And despite our slums and despite our poverty, we have done very well as a society, and we should be proud of that. That is my first message to all of us, that don't feel bad. We have all suffered. It is not that we have not suffered, but in some sense, the world has suffered more. And if governments could have helped within their means, we would have been helped. If NGOs could have helped, they would have also helped. Even rich people, industrialists in India, when the oxygen crisis happened, many of them stopped their normal production and started diverting their oxygen onto the medical grade and started giving it to various cities. And that is a credit to the Indian society, that they feel patriotic, they feel bad about their countrymen suffering, and they are giving it. And for me, we should count our bad parts also. But we should also be thankful to God and also to ourselves that we still have some humanity left in our governments, our rich people, and so on and so forth. The second part is that the entire country, although it was locked down in 70 days, many people thought all the back offices of the country will close down. But all the back offices of the country are actually being managed being managed by Indians, but they are working for other people. Most banks in the world have their back offices in India. Even most retailers like Amazon or Tesla or anyone, they have their back office in India. That did not close down. We ran literally every bank in the world. We ran literally every McDonald's back office here. We ran literally everything sitting here in the home. India ingeniously created a framework, secure framework. You don't hear too many hackings in India over last 1.5 years. Otherwise, the IT system could have been hacked very easily. But Indians ensured the entire world worked. If we had not worked well, then world would have closed down in banking. They would have closed down in retail. They would have closed down many things. They did not close down. That is a proof enough that India worked well. And for me, that also created a respect for India's hard work, whether they are those people sitting in Salt Lake or they are sitting in Hyderabad, in Gachibowli or in Bangalore. Those people, despite all the hardships they have gone through, they have ensured that the world does not suffer because of ourselves. And I think that is a great testament to India's commitment to the world. And every Indian's work ethics of Indian has been tested, and that is brilliant. So we sent the medicines, we created our own medicines, we created our own vaccines, which are very effective. And we have now given almost 45 crore vaccines to people. America's total number of vaccines, total number of people who have been given vaccines is probably 17 crore. Today, 44 crore, if you take away China, because China doesn't give numbers which are believable. But if you take that away, almost 50% of all vaccines given are now by Indian government. And everything is in COVID, right? It is now centralized. The free food was given, but free money was also given to farmers, to poor people, you might recall, right? So there was, without leakages, the money was given. All the supply chains worked. All the farms worked, right? Only the cities closed down. All the shops were running at a very thin basis, but the rest of the country continued to work during wave 1, wave 2, and so on and so forth. And that is where, for me, the second message is that India worked very responsibly for itself and for rest of the world by sending medicines, but also ensuring that the world's back offices don't stop, which are in India. And literally every back office in the world is actually run by Indians sitting in India. And that was a message, is that the world pumped in a lot of money. And that's why the prices of the assets started going up, not the consumer price, because consumers' prices did not go up because government of India and other governments started distributing free food across the world, and also started giving a little bit of money to people for buying other sort of things like toothpaste, toothbrush and all. And that's how the India was pretty much managed. But India also fought a small war in Galwan Valley, you might recall. And many of the Indians wanted India to lose to spite the current government. It is like a child wanting the father to be slapped because he had a fight with the father. None of us can be so stupid to have our father slapped, right? Similarly, nobody should be so less patriotic that our country gets defeated. Fortunately, it did not. But that was an additional burden. We had to buy so many Sukhoi planes. We had to get the Rafale delivery early. We had to put in literally 50,000 people in winter in Tibet and so on and so forth. And we came out again with flying colors. World was watching that will India come down because of so many different types of problems that were taking place. And there also we did well. In the meantime, a new geopolitical framework emerged called Quad, QUAD. It means 4 actually. That is Japan, Australia, India, America, in some ways, 4 log. But it's now adding a lot of other people. And that is basically to ensure that China is now basically acting very aggressively with everyone, and how to contain that. And India is literally at the forefront. Of course, Taiwan is at the even more forefront, but China has disputes with literally all its next door members, all the Malaysia, Indonesia, everywhere China has disputes, and they're acting very aggressively. So this Quad was created, and geopolitically, India, which was basically in last 75 years its independence, or 74 years since independence, India was with wrong people as friends. It was on the Russian side. Russia was not rich. We were not on European side or American side. First time, we are going with the right people. And we don't have a choice either. They also don't have a choice. That doesn't mean if we act funny, they will not run away. So this Quad is getting created. And in some ways, everyone knows India's problems through China, Pakistan framework. And America is also trying to help us now. Yesterday only the news came that from Chinese ambassador that now at Galwan Valley, India and Chinese troops have now disengaged. It means something positive has happened. But effectively, day for yesterday, the American Secretary of State was here, and they also basically discussed about the Quad and so on and so forth. So why I'm telling you this is the geopolitics is now coming in favor of India. What did not happen for 74 years is now happening. And many of the good things that India has done in terms of pharmaceuticals, in terms of IT, back offices, refining, running its entire country without any mishap over most difficult times for humankind in last 100 years. I think India has done exceedingly well. The ecosystem of funding youngsters in young businesses has also come up very well. Today, literally every day, we are seeing listings of new companies from Zomato to anything. They may remain, they may not remain, but effectively, Indians are now investing in the future of technology, which we were not investing. Small companies are getting funding, large companies are getting funding. And I am not saying that they are very good companies or they are very bad companies, but the literally next 50 years, in my opinion, will create more wealth because wealth gets created by technology, nothing else. And technology waves are coming faster and faster. India lost out last 1,000 years in technology waves. The Industrial Revolution, before that, even in year 1000, I mean, after death of Jesus Christ, in year 1000, India was producing almost 40-50% of world GDP. When the Industrial Revolution happened and Britishers came to India through eastern region, India was producing somewhere between 30 and 33% of world GDP. After 200 years, when they left, India was producing 2% of world GDP. We lost out some of our production, but other people's production increased because of the new technologies of steam engine, mills and other things. And we did not participate in that because we lost out. After 74 years of independence, now we are 3% of world GDP, around 3% of world's wealth. Next 50 years is going to create almost same wealth as that has been created till now. So last 10,000 years, whatever wealth has been created, world will create more wealth in next 50 years. And today India is ready. India is not subjugated. Indian youth is now technology oriented. We are literally the largest country with youth. China has become old because of one child policy suddenly. After 2015, they are actually having less number of people coming to job market than previous year onwards. That's why they will have wage inflation. Europe is old. America is getting old. Japan is fully old, right? We are the only large country with technologically oriented youth, which can actually produce that technologically oriented wealth. And if India is going to produce with almost 20% of world's young population, 25% of world's next wealth in next 50 years, then India will produce literally $90 trillion of next new wealth in next 50 years. Today, we are $9 trillion of wealth, will become $99 trillion of wealth most probably in next 50 years. Even after that, we will have 20% of world population and 15% of world's wealth. Today, from 3%, we would have reached 15%. Imagine 5 times more wealth that will be created by Indians. And that is also telling you why the prices of the stocks and other things are up. It may go down tomorrow, it doesn't matter. But effectively, what you need to worry about is that India's time has come. Opportunities here. We have to invest in our youngsters, invest in new technologies and capture that. China is slowly isolating itself. We have to become open to the newer things, allow our youngsters to learn newer things, create that wealth. And I have no doubt in my mind that India, with the new geopolitics, for me, geopolitics eats economic for breakfast. New geopolitics in our favor. Earlier, our hard work did not get us results because we were on the wrong geopolitical side. Nobody wanted us who was rich. So poor man's friends also keep you poor only. Today you are becoming rich man's friend. Many of us still don't want to become rich because we have been made to believe that you don't deserve to be rich. Poverty is the only positive things in your life. But try becoming rich. You might think, you might see that some of your problems get resolved just by becoming a little more prosperous. The wealth does not get you everything. It doesn't get you health. It does not get you relationship, but it does help you in some other ways. And so for me, becoming richer is better than becoming poorer, right? And next 50 years, India is certainly going to get richer. How much richer we get is dependent on our politics, our own working hard as a country together, our own, I mean, all of us becoming patriotic more than what currently we are. But overall, I think India's future is bright. Our youngsters are going to create that wealth. So let's promote our youngsters, let's celebrate, and let's give them more and more technologies so that they can create wealth and win the world. Thank you. I hope this is useful.
Thank you, Sri Chauhan. This has been an extremely exhilarating, talk from you. And what was extremely exciting was something that you mentioned around how geopolitics eats economics for breakfast. And I think one thing we people in entrepreneurship business do not give enough importance and credence to. So it's a new way of looking at this whole paradigm. And I think it's, great. So now I would actually, with your permission, request Shri Subodh Kumarji Agarwal, who's our chair for Council on Capital Markets, to moderate the, some of the questions that we have from our members and other audience. So, we could start with that. Subodhji, if you could take over and, filter the questions for Shri Ashish Kumarji Chauhan, it would be great.
Thank you, Akashji. Ashishji, how are you? If you recollect, we met sometime in 2013-14.
Yes,
and in Mumbai also we had a meeting, frequent meeting when I was the president of the Chartered Accountant Institute. So anyway, your presentation today was fantastic. I was just wondering where you will start on the capital market. But when you ended, then I felt the entire thing was related to capital market, and capital market does not look anything specific what capital. But they derive everything from where the capital can come out. When the market, nothing was there in India, the market was going down. I mean, so nicely you narrated and brought into our heart that why the market was going down when nothing happened till March 2020. And thereafter, touching the bottom of 28, 29,000, when the pandemic started grabbing and touching every nook and corner of the country, the market started rising. And today, when in the midst of the highest COVID situation, we had somewhere from 29,000 to 30,000. So that fundamental, the investor need to understand. And you very correctly said that in India, we have lot of wealth which need to be converted. The wealth in the sense of the youngsters. We are the youngest country in the world. The entire developed country, Western country, which is going aged. I mean, they are catching with the age, and in that regard, China also, due to its policy, the youngsters' age is going down. Probably in our country, more than 33% are below the age of 23 to 24 years of age. And geopolitics, as Akash has already commented, fantastic. So, very much feel enriched. And I didn't know that you are an alum of IIT Mumbai, and I am Kolkata. So at least you are from Kolkata. So welcome to Kolkata again.
Thank you.
The reason probably you have risen to such a high yeah, we have got certain questions which has come to, which has been forwarded by Akash to me, which came to his mobile, and then we have answered. So the first question is, what is the impact of economic and information globalization on the functioning of international financial market? You talked about the impact of Indian economy due to onslaught of the investment coming in. You correctly said the estimation was 30 crore, actual was 3 crore, the estimation was death of 3 crore, the number was only on lakhs, and probably that showed our strongness to the world economy, and then our fund started pouring in. We have the reserve of foreign currency reserve of more than 615 billion, which we never thought, probably before 1991, we have never thought of. In that context, so again I will repeat the question: what is the impact of economic and information globalization on the functioning of international financial market?
So in a way, if you look at the economy works on information, and information is of both types, true and false. The fake information and the world is due to the social media and other things. The world is going through a huge amount of churn in terms of the information that is being disseminated. Earlier, few people could control the narratives, and everyone else had to watch that on television. Now, everyone has a mic in their hand, and the amount of noise, good, bad, ugly, right, wrong, everything is now coming out in the open. Most of it is fake. Most of it is bad in terms of analysis. But everyone now has an ability to be heard. And I think that is a singular change in last 5 years in the world economy, that nothing can be hidden now. And even the wrong thing or wrong information can become so popular that the truth gets hidden, right? And earlier also it was hidden. It is not that only, but there were few people who were controlling it. They were the masters of everything. They were calling themselves editors and other things. Today, everyone is editor. And that has taken away the power that media had over other people. That has taken away power the media had over politics also. Today, when media says that Prime Minister of India doesn't give any interview to me, but who are you? It is not written in Constitution. But they were supposed to be fourth pillar. Now a fifth pillar, which is like 1 crore times larger than the fourth pillar, has come up. Every one of us is now a editor. Everyone is also a publisher, right? And it is an unbelievable situation. So for why I'm telling you this is something called noise, okay? The noise has increased like 10,000 fold or 1 crore fold more than it was, say, in year 2000. But the signals are very difficult to find. If you recall the old radios, even now, when you are listening to radio, you can try to fine tune the knob we used to pull, and then there used to be a lot of noise, right? And then suddenly one station used to be caught, and then you start getting the music, right? You start getting the good song. That is the problem currently. Where to find the signal? There is abundance of information. There is abundance of analysis, abundance of views, and everyone can access. A person sitting in Jumri Talaiya and person sitting in Washington, D.C. in President's office, the difference of information gap is now close to zero. Within 1 second, a Jumri Talaiya person will get the same information as America's president or India's prime minister is going to get. And that is, but a lot of it is noise. If you can't differentiate between the noise and signal and start following noise, you will go mad. Because there are too many directions. I give some example which people, when I also teach, Shri Akasha mentioned, I teach in few places. I give example that if you are going with your dog for a walk from Behala to Alipur, and basically you are going in a one direction, but your dog is roaming around you on the leash, on the patta. The dog is roaming around you. The person who is watching the dog, that person might think that the dog is moving randomly. The person who is watching you, they know that you are going to Behala, because slowly you will start going towards that, right? And people who are watching noise is the people who are watching the dog. All of us are now watching the dog. There is, to find out the signal that is your walk to Behala is very difficult to find. And the wise people or lucky people would be able to find that and use it for their benefit. Sometimes wise people are able to find the signal, but they are not able to use it for their benefit. There are lucky people who may not find the signal, but they ride the signal. Suddenly they get that music automatically when they start the radio. So they are lucky people and they will ride. So idea is, if you are wise and lucky and you can use it for your benefit, you will become billionaires in no time. But if you are just following the dog, you are following the noise, even however lucky you are, however sort of wise you are, you are going to only complain, like what we have Adda in Calcutta. We can continue to Adda, no action, only reactions, right? Then very little can be done. So for everyone, the next 50 years will be about how to find that signal from the noise, right? If you can master in your own field, you don't have to find signal everywhere. If you are a manufacturer of jute, in your business, what is the competition happening? What new technology are happening? What are government policies? Everything which you never had before is now available on a mobile. And it's available on mobile of your worker also. It's not only on your, but the lowest level worker also will have the same information. How he or she uses it, how you use it. That's why there is going to be huge churn in the society also. People who are haves today may not become, may remain there, and people who are have-nots will become haves because they use their brains. Brain is going to be very important. Second part, which is what I call capitalism without capital. Earlier, to make more capital, you have to put in a lot of money, lot of wealth, lot of capital. India was capital starved, right? So that's why we did not have more industries and all. Today, to create more wealth, what do you require? Little bit of money, a lot of brain power, and then you can create huge capital. It happened to Nandan Nilekani. It happened to Bini Bansal. It happened to Zomato promoter, right? They don't require to start with $1 billion to create $10 billion. You and me, small little people, can also create. Your worker can also create. A boy of 15-year-old can also create huge amount of wealth by creating something using technology, little bit of funds, lot of brains, lot of exposure, and you can create huge amount. What I call is capitalism without capital. To create more wealth, you don't require to to put in lot of wealth. And that is the lottery style framework which has come. Google guys, Sergey Brin, they were students, poor students. Somebody they funded them and they became now worth $100 billion each or $50 billion worth each. Amazon, Jeff Bezos, 20 years back, nothing. Started in a garage. Today worth $100 billion. Elon Musk. It doesn't happen only in America. It happens in India also. And the examples are in front of us every day, but we don't want to recognize. For me, capitalism without capital and finding signal from the tremendous noise that has increased about the information is going to be the key to a good future for individual and good future for the society, right? And Bangalore, which was a Mofussil city 30 years back, today is the heart of India by just working on one single technology, right? Otherwise, it was a retirement city. People used to go there for retirement, right? And today, it is the heartthrob, that even Hyderabad. That's how I'm saying that. And Calcutta, you recall, used to be the capital of India till 1911. Calcutta can become capital of India in terms of the economy in future also. But we have to basically figure out those signals, work individually and as a society together for our own city to come up.
Thank you, sir. I can take out from what you said right now, one need to be focused. Information reservoir is huge. You need to just churn it out and get the right kind of information. And then if you are focused, one recent, the OTO, in OTO what we call that serial I was looking at, that if you focus, go to the factory, try to find out the information and work on that, then probably with lesser wealth, you can create bigger wealth. Definitely you are referring to the technology. And today for that, I will say that, yes, youngsters are far better placed than the people like Ashish Chauhan or Subodh Agrawal. I will not include Akash Saha into that thing. Now,
he's our hope.
Yes, they are our hope. And if we talk about the Adda, today the Adda that you have seen in Kolkata, probably that has changed. The Adda is more on Zoom today rather than on the pavement of the gullies and mohallas. And that has also changed in its own style. But sir, now coming on the premium public issue, IPOs that are going on. We very funnily talk among our friends that if you want to buy a company, existing company, you can buy at 25 rupees. But the same sort of company, if it is coming out with the IPO, you will get that IPO at 500 rupees. and it will be oversubscribed. Definitely, it is going. If it is coming in the market, till this market is going on in this way, it will be oversubscribed. So, what is your take on that? I remember 1995 when I used to be a merchant banker. That time, there was no control of the CCI was just gone, and SEBI had kept the premium market open, so people were coming out with whatever premium, and then ultimately we found that 95% of those issues that came out with the premium of are failed. Today, probably most of them nowhere. So how you look at those heavy premium loaded companies coming up right now? I'll not name any company.
See, yeah, for me, I mean, I broadly agree with your perspective because we are old, right? We have seen so many decades of these investments. So we know that ultimately profit matters, right? Ultimately, economic value added matters, if not today, tomorrow. But the reality is also that in last 50 years, in fact, next month, in next 16 days, we are going to celebrate a new event. Of course, we are going to celebrate 74th birthday of India, but we are also going to celebrate the 58th birthday of the move away from gold standard in the money. On 15th August 1971, American President Richard Nixon announced on India's Independence Day, he gave independence to the money of the world from gold. He announced that no longer the US dollar can be converted into gold. Before that, it used to be that so many dollars if you have, they will give you so much of gold. And each currency in the world also used to have a backing. But 1971, 15th August, Richard Nixon said there is no gold backing for dollar. After that, all currencies had no gold backing. Because of this, now governments can print as many dollars, as many rupees, as many pounds as they want. And that's what they started doing. And that has created a situation where a lot of money is chasing few assets. And that's why the prices you can see going up, and why the public asset prices are higher than the private asset prices. That's what you said. If the company is not listed, price is 25, then it gets listed 500 rupees, it happens. It is the other way around also. Many public listed companies which are worth 25 are now being sold at 2.5 rupees also. So it is both ways that it is happening. But effectively, when a company becomes public, there are more people it is accessible to. Today, BSE has reached 7.5 crore investor accounts as of date, which is very large, right? And those people are all watching an SME company and a small company as much as they are watching large companies like Reliance or ACC or anything, right? And that is where basically, if they feel like putting little money in your company for whatever means due to information or noise they are getting, that company price may go up or down. And that may not reflect fundamentally the value of that, the company's worth. So price and value are two different things in a way. Most times in our expectations, they have to go together. But many times the price of the particular item may vary greatly from the value it can give you. And so this is going to happen even in future. But everyone who invests in stock market need to understand that it is their own money. They need to be careful. Despite all the tall promises which somebody gives you on television, on WhatsApp, in Adda, wherever, it is your money. When you want to buy a refrigerator, when you want to buy even a fan, you do a lot of research. But when you want to buy stock, you don't do anything. Somebody calls you up, somebody tells you, start buying. 1 lakh rupees, 20,000 rupees, 50,000 rupees, all of you do that. Some of you also indulge in derivatives without knowing kya hai. If you are not expert, please don't do such things. If you know the company, if you know the company's business, if you know the company's balance sheets, please do that. If you don't have expertise, you can go through, and some experts like portfolio managers, investment advisors, mutual funds, ETF to invest. It is like driving a car, you know. When you are new, you are supposed to go with a learning license and somebody sits next to you to train you. Otherwise, you can hurt others and kill yourself also. Similarly, in stock market, you can kill yourself and hurt others also. So please be careful. Euphoria will come and go, but it is your money. It is your responsibility to increase it, not decrease it. Right? So be careful and do what is required correctly.
Ashish, you have given very, very pertinent alarm to everybody that when we go to buy a fridge, we inquire at least 3, 4, 5 shops or check in the Google. But if somebody calls me that boss, ये 1 लाख रुपया इस शेयर में इन्वेस्ट कर दो, we don't give the second thought and immediately invest in that company. And after maybe after 1 or 2 months, when we find that the market has crashed and the money has blocked, and there is no marketability also, because at that time the poor stocks you will not be able to sell at 20, 30, 40% discount also. So there one has to be aware about euphoria and has to be very cautious, and they need to have their own information. As you said, out of the noise, you need to find out what is the right information. The last question, we are coming to the fag end of the session, though I have other 3, 4 questions, but I will take it as the last question, and it's a product specific or industry specific. Do you think there will be super cycle in the metal sector due to enhanced infrastructure expenditure across the major developed and emerging markets in the world?
It's a good point. See, I don't invest. I'm not allowed to invest in stocks. Okay.
That's very good.
Because by law,
Other I would have called you and asked you, obviously, tip
right. And a lot of people ask me, in fact, because market is up, a lot of people come to hear me to think that I'll give tips. My job is like an umpire. I am not Sachin Tendulkar. Right. My job is to give you out or not out. Right. And ensure that you stay behaved. All the participants, companies, the stockbrokers, the investors, everyone behaves well and everything. So my job is not of playing. If you tell me what will work, what will not work, I am not the right guy. On a broad basis, I can tell you that when you worry about metal, you also need to worry about the import part of it. If the China starts reducing the cost of, the per ton sale value of metal, then all the Indian metal companies will have tough times. If they don't, then because India is going to go increase a lot of manufacturing infrastructure. So there are a lot of signals and there is a lot of noise. You need to figure out what will work. And many times, I have been proven wrong so many times in terms of timing. It's like Raghuram Rajan, In 2005, he said that world market will be in crisis, but it happened in 2008 or 2009. Till the time Raghuram Rajan was wrong, but it is possible that market would have fallen after 2020 and he would have been wrong for 15 years. So idea is if you think that market, and that happens to me also, that this is a bad company or this is a good company, but that company may actually go up in prices manifold before it goes down. It may go down after 15 years and I may feel happy. But by the time I will myself be out of business by trying to short sell the company. So unless you are an expert, don't indulge in all these things. These are all good too. So for me, if you invest in stock markets, you may make money or not money, but it will make your general knowledge very high, like this, asking me about metal and all. Right? You keep on watching all the television channels, you will become expert on everything. You think that way. It doesn't work out, right? So don't get impressed by anyone's knowledge. Finally, prices may go up or down for variety of reasons. And when they go up or down, no Raghuram Rajan or no Ashish Chauhan can predict.
So that's the end of the question session, because the question session can go on for another 15 to 20 minutes, but everybody is now, since we at least in the MCCI ensure that our guest timing is honored. So that way, Ashish being very senior and very busy person, Ashish, we take this opportunity to wholeheartedly thank you to grace this occasion and with your presence and insight. Your lucid comments on the current and post-COVID scenarios of Indian and world stock market have enlightened us about the current issues. You have boosted our morale to invest as per the knowledge. side by side, you have alarmed us also not to go on rumors, but use our brain and find out the correct thing out of the noise. Not look at the dog, but look at Ashish. If you want to go on a right direction. And in Adda also, let us try not to criticize, but effectively and productively discuss our thing. The knowledge that you had shared with us today will be extremely valuable. We are grateful to you for sharing your valuable thoughts with us. I also thank our media friends who are present there for their continued support and hope they will be suitably cover our today's proceedings. I thank all of you who have joined this program online. We definitely, once that COVID is over, Akashji will request Ashishji whenever he is in Kolkata to grace our premises and have a live session whenever the COVID situation is clear. Once again, I thank all of you. Thank you, Ashishji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashishji. Thank you so much for taking time out. And as Subodhji mentioned, please do let us know whenever you're traveling to this part of the country. It would be our honor and pleasure to host you at our chamber and invite our members to, listen to you in person. Obviously, the times have to be right for it. So but whenever that does present itself, please keep our invitation in mind.
Thank you, sir. Look forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.